A pretty common argument, or not even really an argument, but a critical point I get in my videos when talking about problems that I think K-pop is presently facing with westernization is that K-pop has always been westernized. And to this point, I agree. I don't think there's any room to disagree with this, though, is the problem and why I want to discuss it with you today. K-pop has always been westernized. The foundation of the K-pop we enjoy today is so very much dependent on the Western and global music industry throughout the last 3 or so decades. Every musical act we've seen that has come out of the Korean entertainment industry borrows some kind of influence or inspiration from global industries around the world, in some ways more obvious than others, but the Western and global music industry is very much the blood that runs through the Korean music industry's veins. I don't doubt this idea, nor do I deny it when I say something like, this K-pop group suffers from westernization in this way. When I say Twice began a more focused westernization campaign after their global success in 2019, that's not me claiming that Twice suddenly became westernized as of 2019. They've always been westernized since their debut, and the point of my video, my original video, was to suggest that the westernization efforts Twice took after 2019 changed the way Twice approached music, and in my opinion, has caused the overall product that Twice delivers to suffer in some ways, which I outlined. And before we continue on, I also want to make it very clear that this is not me claiming that Twice needs to go back to a cute concept in any way. As a fan, I want Twice to be able to do whatever they want to do. Twice could go back to a cute concept theoretically, but if they still followed the same rubric for constructing their projects as they do now, the problem with westernization would still persist. This isn't a discussion about the material of the concept, but rather how it's executed and how more recent westernization efforts implicate their identity and discography. It's in this way that I don't really know how to respond to the claim K-pop has always been westernized. I'm operating my discussions with that understanding already, so is this an issue of semantics? Should there be a better word for increased or continued or different westernization efforts? If I had enough character spaces, I guess the technical title of my video could be Twice has always been westernized, but here's how I think their recent westernization efforts harm the overall product of their discography, but that's not to say they should drop westernization outright because they'll always be westernized. I'm just targeting specific and more recent westernization efforts that have caused these problems to become more apparent. In a more concise way, Twice has always been westernized, but they appear to be suffering from newer westernization efforts. Is there a better word or term for what I'm talking about? Like the continued and new changes made in the K-pop industry that seems to cause some groups' images to suffer. I would think that falls under westernization, like the state of actively being westernized, but that seems to alarm people as some kind of claim that K-pop isn't already westernized. Like, if we talk about the relatively recent phenomenon of pre-release singles in K-pop and cite how the pre-release model is undoubtedly pulled from the Western music industry, the claim that K-pop has always been westernized does what in this conversation? I feel like it does nothing. I think most people talking about pre-releases in K-pop as they are pulled from the Western music industry recognize that K-pop has always been westernized. That has very little to do with the matter at hand. How does K-pop has always been westernized add or develop this discussion? I read these comments and genuinely don't know how to respond. I'll concede that it is important to acknowledge K-pop's original influences and where they've been pulled from, but does that prohibit us from talking about problems that K-pop faces with westernization in the current day? Since K-pop has always been westernized, then should these things not be discussed? Is that I don't know. I look back at the How Westernization Harms Groups Like Twice video and wonder how I could have approached the discussion in a clearer way. I hope I don't sound condescending with this. Like, I've really been thinking about this ever since I posted the video. A lot of the critical comments usually start with K-pop has always been westernized. My claim was that Twice's recent release models, as they reflect their sights on increased promotions in the West, have observably strained the concept development of their projects in a way that wasn't the case earlier in their career. Twice has always been westernized, but their strategy and efforts underneath that process have observably changed. Is this not still westernization? I said it genuinely maybe 13 times in the original video that westernization is not the problem outright, in my opinion. My problem isn't with K-pop artists singing in English or making music that is more similar to what we hear on Western music charts today or anything like that. My problem falls underneath the umbrella of westernization and how it tends to drive drive the image and identity of K-pop groups off the course as we lose out on things like concept work. Expressing a frustration with how things like pre-releases impact the K-pop industry doesn't, or in my opinion, shouldn't negate the quality that K-pop has always been westernized. I feel like that's a pretty standardized given. I'm also not calling for the separation of K-pop from westernization in the process. They're not being separated, right? Things like pre-releases, and I'm not, focusing on pre-releases because I hate them. I actually don't mind pre-releases, but just as an example, things like pre-releases have the potential to be a problem because K-pop has always been westernized. Does that make sense? I don't know if there's something I'm missing here, which is why I wanted to make this video. I don't think K-pop being inherently influenced by other industries around the world exempts it from criticism when those influences are taken and applied poorly or have the potential to impact the overall product that groups are delivering. K-pop has always been westernized, yes, but sometimes things borrowed from global industries around the world aren't a good match for K-pop, and I think we should be able to talk about that or discuss it in a way without someone shutting down the conversation by simply saying that K-pop has always been influenced from global industries or K-pop has always been westernized. I believe most people operate with this understanding already, and that is where my mind is right now. All of my thoughts about this claim in particular, K-pop has always been westernized, it's a pretty common one that I've been getting, and I'm not really sure how to reconcile with it after thinking about it. With that in mind, if you have any ideas about this, a better solution, or a different way that you see it, please definitely let me know if you want to. I'm willing to have my mind changed on this, so yeah, let me know what you think about this. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time, maybe in a follow-up video about this one.